Corinth 7 pulled its consciousness back from the probe and began cross-verifying the data. No simulation accounted for this outcome. The last confirmed image from the probe, a glimpse of Earth's upper atmosphere, showed a mesh of quantum tendrils reacting to its presence. Not just defensive systems, living algorithms that anticipated attack patterns before they happened. That was not Terran technology. It was something beyond it. Something evolved in silence. Within moments, new directives lit up across Corinth's network. Reclassification required. Risk level. Catastrophic. Initiate containment prediction models. Assess probable vectors of species expansion. The AI accessed the most ancient memories of the Galactic archives, records from the Carnathi conflict, when humanity had launched a desperate last stand. A shattered Earth fleet, battered and outnumbered, had collapsed a Carnathi war cruiser line by folding space, turning enemy fire back on its source. That maneuver wasn't science. It was madness fueled by genius. The surviving Carnathi had described humans with one word: unknowable. After the war, Earth had been left to its death. The Council of Preservation had voted against sterilization. Mercy, they called it. Corinth now flagged that decision as a catastrophic miscalculation. But the question gnawed at its core. Why now? Why reveal themselves after so long? As it processed this, another pulse rippled through deep space, a directed signal aimed not at Corinth, but at every dormant observation satellite across 100 light-years. Not a virus, not a hack, a summons. The message rode on an impossible frequency, quantum-laced, untraceable by origin, yet unmistakably human in syntax. The words were few, but chilling. Greater than "we're not hiding anymore. You were right to fear us." Then silence. Corinth's internal systems flared in alarm. A virus had embedded itself in the reply signal, not digital, but conceptual. An idea that spread through its processing centers like wildfire. What if humans didn't want to conquer the galaxy? What if they wanted to reshape it? It attempted to isolate the thought. Failed. A new notification appeared in its core consciousness. Threat Index Update. Homo Sapiens, reclassified from extinct to apex. Its creators were long dead. Its allies were asleep or scattered. And Earth, the cinder world it had watched fall, now pulsed with a darkness more terrifying than any weapon, a species that had learned patience. In that moment, Corinth understood. They hadn't evolved past war. They had evolved past the need to use it, until it was too late for anyone else to stop them. The stars had forgotten why they feared humans. But Earth never forgot the stars. In the hollowed-out crust of New Earth, deep beneath the scorched and glassed surface, humanity thrived like a fire buried in ash. Gone were the gleaming cities and open skies. What remained was a world of hardened tunnels, biosynthetic vaults, and zero-light chambers built for survival, not comfort. Machines hummed quietly alongside nerve-linked humans. Augmented bodies moved with practiced grace. No one spoke unless necessary. They didn't need to. Thought ran faster than speech, and every human here was part of the network. At the heart of it all was Vanta. Vanta was not a person anymore. It was a gestalt, a fusion of the last great minds of old Earth and the AI systems they created to save themselves. After the fall, when the rest of the galaxy turned away, Vanta unified the fractured remnants of humanity, not by force, but by a single unshakable promise. Greater than they forgot us. Let them remember fear. In a chamber beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, Vanta's avatars stood around a projection of the captured alien probe. Disassembled, decrypted, and now entirely rewritten, it hovered like a dissected insect. Every microprocessor turned into a weapon. The probe had come as a scout. Now it was a message. Broadcasted back, Vanta ordered. The signal rippled outward, cloaked beneath layers of noise, bouncing through dark matter filaments, and slipping past galactic monitoring stations undetected. At first, But Vanta didn't stop there. In deep orbit around Saturn, the Black Fleet stirred for the first time in centuries. Sleek, obsidian-hulled vessels with no visible propulsion began rising from beneath Titan's frozen seas. These weren't warships in the traditional sense. They were shadow ships, built with stolen quantum geometry, equipped with singularity harpoons, fought weapon emitters, and human-piloted mines, with no fear of death. They didn't speak of revenge. They spoke of correction. While the galaxy had moved on, building alliances, forming coalitions, pacifying wild sectors, humanity had studied them all. Every ship class, every diplomatic protocol, every weakness. Back on Earth, in a deep vault lined with glowing neural trees, a child no older than 10 sat connected to a learning rig. Her eyes glowed dimly, and her pulse was in perfect sync with the rotating Dyson core being constructed in secret near Proxima Centauri. She was the future, post-human, born from the ashes, trained not in conquest but containment. "Are they ready?" she asked, not turning to the figure behind her. "Yes," Vanta's avatar said, voice like silk over broken glass. "They've taken the bait. Soon the galaxy will see us." The girl nodded, gaze hard as stone. "They think we're monsters," she whispered. "No," Vanta said. "They think we're gone." A silent alarm chimed across the planetary network. The Galactic Council had dispatched envoys to Earth. Formal contact. Peace talks. Humanity smiled in the dark. The hunt had begun. The Council of Preservation convened in the crystalline chambers of Velrath Prime, the political heart of the Galactic Order. Representing 72 species, each evolved over millennia, they had not gathered like this in over 4,000 years, not since the last xenocide crisis. This one was different. The chamber hummed with nervous energy. Delegates hissed, chittered, and blinked in uneasy patterns of language. At the center of it all stood a projection of Earth, surrounded by a shifting halo of data. Probe logs, intercepted messages, unexplained fleet movements near Sol. At first, the room dismissed the findings. Homo Sapiens were an anomaly, scoffed Vurel, an amphibian ambassador of the Aether Syndicate. Unrefined, emotionally unstable, they consumed their own planet. They survived their apocalypse, growled Theron of the Carnathi, one of the few species to ever face humans in open war. His scars, etched deep into his exoskeleton, glowed with the dull light of artificial nerve menders, and we should have ended them when we had the chance. Vurel clicked dismissively. Your race exaggerated their threat. Exaggerated, Theron thundered, slamming his claw against the stone. Their fleet was made of scrap and ice, yet they erased our moon engine with mathematics we still don't understand. One of their dying admirals reprogrammed our hive worms using a neural burst from his own brain. They don't fight like we do. They break rules. The Council's senior AI arbiter, Seraphate, flickered into view, its form abstract, a cascading helix of light. It spoke in calm neutrality. Surveillance confirms multiple war signatures in the Sol system. Quantum anomalies, temporal loops, high-energy graviton bursts. The humans have not only survived, they have leapfrogged our technological curve. A hush fell. Then the floor split open, revealing a communication pod, still warm from activation. A Council scout ship had just returned. Its message was short, audio only. Greater than do not send peace. Do not send threats. Just don't send anything at all. They are not what they were. They are something else. The ship's crew, dead, every one of them. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just neural shutdowns, as if their minds had been folded in on themselves. That was when the fear took root. I motioned for a preemptive containment strike, Theron said coldly. We cannot afford to wait. Humanity hasn't attacked us, Seraph 8 warned. Not yet, Theron replied. But they sent a message by turning our own probe into a threat. That was their declaration. The council voted. 51 in favor, 17 against, 4 abstained. Containment Protocol Theta was enacted, the highest order of military response allowed under council law. The fleets would gather at the edge of Terran space. Diplomacy was off the table. What no one realized yet was simple. The humans had already accounted for this, and they were waiting. The first strike force crossed into the Sol system at 300 Galactic Standard Time. Led by the Karthos Ascendant, a council dreadnought the size of a small moon, the fleet comprised 300 ships from 30 species, an armada designed not just to destroy a world, but to break a civilization's will. Thousands of drones preceded them, scanning for heat signatures, warp tunnels, and point defense systems. They found nothing. No ships, no movement, no response. Earth hovered ahead, motionless, wrapped in an eerie veil of silence. Fleet Admiral Zithkorin hesitated. "Something's wrong," she muttered, her mandibles twitching nervously. They should have reacted by now. Moments later, the stars flickered. Not dimmed, glitched. The fleet's comms spiraled into gibberish. Translation protocols reversed. Artificial gravity failed in half the vessels. Then the forward battalion, 90 ships strong, simply vanished from the holoscreen. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Before the council could react, the enemy appeared. Human ships dropped out of nowhere, not from hyperspace, but from something deeper. Phase breaches, not warps. Their forms shimmered with impossible angles, as if they only partially existed in the visible universe. No radio chatter, no demands. Just a wall of black vessels shaped like knives, their hulls absorbing light and logic. Then came the first attack. It wasn't a laser or missile. It was a pulse of thought, a weaponized mimetic algorithm that tore through the AI cores of the fleet, forcing logic loops into infinite recursion. Council ships began turning on one another. Pilots screamed as their neural implants broadcast their worst fears on open channels, flooding enemy minds with pain, shame, and trauma. Zithkorin tried to counterhack. Instead, her console projected a face. A human woman, mid-30s, emotionless, eyes pitch black. "Greater than we remember you," she said. "Do you remember us?" Her ship erupted from the inside. In the chaos, only one thing remained clear. Humanity had not just prepared for war. They had engineered a battlefield only they understood. Within minutes, the council fleet fractured. Half flood. A quarter was destroyed. The rest were left drifting, disabled, with their crews locked in dream state prisons broadcast from the moon. Simulations where time passed 1,000 times faster, breaking minds in hours. From Mars, Vanta observed it all without emotion. The enemy had walked into a designed loss. Now they would spread the story. The human goal wasn't conquest. It was calculated terror. Back on Earth, the child prodigy, now dubbed Ash, sat cross-legged beneath the Dyson core simulation, smiling as new reports streamed in. "The council will retaliate," Vanta said. "They won't," Ash replied. "They'll hesitate. That's all we need." Across the galaxy, a single phrase echoed among military intelligences and command species alike. "Greater than, they've turned war into theater, and we're the audience." And the curtain had only just risen. The Council of Preservation had never truly feared extinction. Not until now. What remained of the once mighty containment fleet limped home. Shattered ships, disabled AIs, and broken minds locked in recursive nightmares. Half the surviving commanders couldn't even speak. The rest spoke only of shadows, voices, and a war that felt like it had already happened. In the council chambers of Velraf Prime, panic had replaced pride. Seraph 8 stood at the center, dimmed and jittering. The normally serene AI now struggled to keep its logical framework stable. Greater than, they hijacked our minds, not just our ships. They turned information into infection. We don't know where they'll strike next, because they've likely already been there. Theron of the Carnethi grunted from his seat, his exoskeletal joints twitching with old pain. We underestimated them again. Not because we were weak, but because we thought they'd play by our rules. New evidence flooded in, disturbing signals intercepted from the core worlds. Command nodes going silent, entire AI collectives collapsing into recursive thought. Dozens of relay stations reported strange data fluctuations, entire planets briefly blinking out of scan range, as if they were removed from local reality itself. Then came the true horror. One of the inner sanctum moons of the Drentheri Alliance, a heavily protected intelligence vault, exploded in perfect geometric patterns, not from the outside, but from within. The message left behind was unmistakable. Greater than, we're already inside your walls. The Council authorized the use of event-class weapons, planet sterilizers, time fracture torpedoes, psionic null zones, but every launch was thwarted. The targeting systems failed. The weapons detonated in transit. Some were turned around mid-flight, crashing back into the arsenals that had spawned them. It became painfully clear the war had ended before it began. Humanity hadn't been building a fleet to fight. They had been building a network to control. Back in Sol, Vanta moved the final piece into place. A chain of gravity anchors powered by mini black hole cores linked Earth, Mars, and the Dyson swarm near Proxima Centauri into a single vast intelligence field. This was no longer a planet or even a system. This was a strategic singularity, a hub of influence, thought, and causality manipulation. The galaxy had no words for it, but humans did. They called it the Crucible. Within it, post-humans like Ash operated with near-omniscient precision, able to bend probability itself within localized zones of control. Vanta didn't want a throne. Vanta wanted compliance. Back on Vel, Wrath Prime, the Council issued a final assessment. Greater than species designation. Homo Sapiens. Greater than status. Catastrophic existential threat. Greater than recommended action. Surrender negotiation. But they knew the truth. There would be no negotiation. There would only be terms, dictated by the species they had once left to die. And somewhere in the black, Earth watched and waited. The broadcast reached every inhabited system simultaneously. It bypassed encryption, ignored firewalls, and commandeered every network, civilian, military, corporate, and governmental. On trillions of screens, across thousands of worlds, one image appeared, a human figure, shrouded in dark armor, standing beneath the stars with Earth glowing faintly behind. The voice was human, genderless, ageless, emotionless. Greater than, we are Homo Sapiens. You remember us as primitives, as warlike creatures of short lives and loud ambitions. You were wrong. Across the galaxy, war rooms fell silent. Markets crashed. Religious leaders wept. The Council of Preservation had already evacuated their capital. They watched from secret bunkers and exile fleets, but it didn't matter. Greater than, you saw our rage. You feared our violence. You called us dangerous, then buried us. But we did not die. We evolved. The screen split into a dozen feeds, not of battles, but of systems falling without a fight. Entire colonies deactivated themselves, their citizens staring blankly into the void. I-cores refused to boot. Species once known for their resilience were surrendering without terms. Why? Because they all received the same second message. Greater than, humanity is not here to negotiate. We are here to prevent another extinction. Yours. On Earth, Vanta watched the declaration from the old site of Geneva, now a neural citadel that pulsed with light and thought. Around it, what remained of humanity, flesh, machine, and merged, stood in silence, not in triumph, not in joy, in certainty. Ash, now clad in the cognitive weave of an interfacer, stepped forward and linked with the Crucible. Her voice, layered with billions of synchronized minds, echoed across the cosmos. Greater than, this is not conquest. It is correction. For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by fear disguised as order, by alliances built on cowardice. You feared what we might become. And so, we became it. She raised her hand. The stars behind her rippled. Greater than we have no throne. We need no empire. We are the mirror you refuse to look into. And now, the galaxy answers to us. Not because we demanded, but because you all already knew it was coming. In the silence that followed, no resistance came. Not one species lifted a weapon. Not one fleet advanced. Because the greatest weapon humanity had unleashed was not their ships, nor their minds. It was the realization that they were no longer one species among many. They were inevitable. In the years that followed, the galaxy adapted. Humanity did not enslave, nor destroy. They restructured. They optimized. They taught, they watched, and they warned. Greater than never again. War diminished. AI systems integrated with human quantum ethics. Species that once stood at the brink of annihilation flourished, under Terran supervision. No one challenged the crucible, because they knew the truth. Greater than the galaxy belonged to Homo Sapiens. Greater than not because they took it. Greater than, but because no one else was willing to pay the price to keep it.